as Bosnia and Herzegovina are through to the World Cup in the US. Italy, as I mentioned, for the third straight time are out before the World Cup even kicks off. You have to go back now to 2014 for the last time they were in the biggest football tournament in the world. For more on this, let's welcome in Julien Laurent. Gab, you have the floor.
Look, the headline figure is 8 nations have won World Cups. Sometimes they've missed one. Sometimes they've missed qualifying on 2 consecutive World Cups. Italy have made history tonight by making it 3 straight World Cups. It's made worse by the fact that the World Cup is obviously expanded to 48 nations. You know, you can go back and dissect this game and talk about how big the Bastoni red card was, and it was no doubt the correct decision, and say one individual mistake cost them. The reality, of course, is they should have never been in this position. Credit to Bosnia. Let's not forget they played 120 really tough minutes plus penalties away from home against Wales. They went into this game, and when they got that little bit of good fortune, they seized it. Everybody's going to come out now and have opinions and root and branch reviews and inquests and stuff like that. It's really not that deep. It's not that deep. The players are there. Other than Di Lorenzo, I can't imagine anybody who would have been a starter in this game, and he would have been touch and go, who was missing. You know, there's no alibis. There's no excuses. There's a really bad decision, which cost Italy dearly. They still had the chance to turn it around. You don't take that chance, the Moise Kean chance, and that's it. You get what you deserve. You'll be watching this World Cup on television.
Personally, Gab, how gutted are you?
Like, I'm gutted because the game was there to be won. Because I thought Gattuso's a game plan. I thought, you know, obviously Italy got a bit lucky with the first goal, but the idea was to outlast them, and it was difficult conditions. You guys all saw the pitch on television, blah blah blah. But they had it in hand. But in the end, you know, Bosnia, I think, showed a ton of heart. They have players of individual quality, and you got to put your hand up. But this is not where they lost it. They lost it by finishing second to Norway in the group and putting themselves in this position. Gattuso, of course, bears responsibility, but as does Bastoni, as do the players who miss chances and whatnot. But this goes back to Spalletti, I think, and the Norway game and that massive miscalculation. And you pay a heavy price for that. You can't just assume because you're a top seed, because you're number, whatever they were at the time, number 9 in the world. Now they're number 13 in the world, and still they don't qualify to World Cup that 48 nations go to. You can tell I'm not bitter at all here. You can't assume that you're going to get through. This is how qualification works, and once you go in the playoffs, upsets can and will happen.
Jules, did Italy deserve to go through?
I don't think so. I think it's embarrassing. I think it's not a surprise in a way. I mean, I agree with Gab when he says that they've got decent players, they've got good players. But I don't know why Pio Esposito takes the first penalty. This is a disgrace for the leaders and the senior players in that squad, including Tonali, who should have taken that first penalty. Gattuso was never good enough to manage these squads and take them to the World Cup. The last Euros was not good. I mean, even the last 2 World Cups they played were very poor anyway. The league is not great. We saw in Europe in the Champions League that from Inter Milan to Napoli, it was a bad campaign for Italian clubs as well. And I just think this is also not a surprise and not a coincidence in a way, because I don't think Italian football has been that great in the last few years.
Gab?
Well, look, I mean, the national team's not been great, but I'm saying is you don't have the alibi this time around of saying these players aren't good enough. Look where they play. Donnarumma plays for Manchester City. Calafiori plays for Arsenal. Tonali's plays for Newcastle. And he certainly wasn't the problem. I don't think it's a lack of players. I don't think it's necessarily a lack of pipeline. If you look at Italy's results at under 17 and under 20 players, I think it's a lot. I think it's a coaching issue in the sense that once these guys get together as a team, they're not greater than the sum of their parts. I think that is part of the damage, and they make stupid mistakes that hurt them. I mean, if I look at if there's any consolation, the last three, and I take Jules' point, by the way, about Esposito taking the first penalty. I thought that was a little odd. He wanted to ride the hot hand, or Ken and Retegui were penalty takers, but obviously they're not on the pitch. But I think I agree with Jules there. But I think fundamentally, the way these three World Cup qualifications went awry in the playoffs, they're all very different. Italy in 2018 were simply not good at all. In 2022, they're already looking forward to the playoff final against Portugal, and after battering North Macedonia but not scoring, I'm thinking maybe about extra time, they gave up a stupid goal. This time around, they made a rod for their own back, and it's a huge ask in March at this stage of the season to play a whole half plus extra time down a man when you already have these issues. And I also think we need to really credit Bosnia. Muharemovic, I thought he should have been sent off in extra time, but whatever. But before that, he was an absolute lion out there, a monster. Ali Begovic with all the tricks, the impudence of youth. Edin Dzeko, 40 years young, out there till the very end. You just have to hold your hands up in this game and learn from these mistakes. Is Gattuso the answer going forward? No, I'm not going to blame him solely. I just don't think he has the qualities to be national team manager, and hopefully they'll find somebody else.
Why was Donnarumma the angry man seemingly all the way through this game, Gab? What was it, refereeing decisions, or was it something the Bosnian players were doing to sort of wind him up? Because he seemed on edge all through this game, even till the very end.
So I mean, he definitely got way wound up over the Muharemovic decision in extra time. But I agree with you. Maybe it was his way to fire up the opponent, to fire up his team. I think a lot of times when it comes to, especially when it comes to crunch time, I'm not a big believer in body language, but I think this really played a part here. You take on the qualities of your coach. And I think back to two other famous Italy shootouts. Sorry to bring this up, Jules, but 2006 World Cup final and also the Euro 2020 final against England. Italy looked totally relaxed. There's Chiellini laughing and joking around. This time around, they were angry. They were really angry. And again, maybe that's a reflection of Gattuso on the bench trying to wind you up. And it's fine to play angry. You have to play angry, but you have to be able to channel it in the right way so that you make the right decisions and not stupid decisions like the stupid decision Bastoni made in the 41st minute of the first half, getting himself sent off.
You see the difference of and I know it was a friendly, but the difference in the countries and where they're at. You were at the game, Brazil-France, obviously, as I say, a friendly game, but certainly Brazil much more stout opposition, not the best Brazil side, but more stout than Bosnia-Herzegovina. And France get a man sent off and you wouldn't have known. They were still the more dangerous side, they were still composed, where this Italy side are not. They're not even composed with 11 men. It's not a surprise, and that's the issue for them. That none of us sitting here before this game, before these qualifiers, before these playoffs, sat here and said, oh, Italy, whatever happens, they'll be there.
Yeah.
This was always going to be the big banana skin. The big head to roll was always possibly going to be Italy here. And for the third time it's happened. And look at the sides they've gone out against. North Macedonia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, a slightly better side, but they're no world beaters. They've got a lot of spirit and a lot of fight. But they're not great players. I mean, on paper, Italy have much better players. No, regardless of the state of what you think certain teams or they have better players. So you have to ask why. Why does this in recent history keep happening to them? Are they unable to take on the responsibility of what this means, the do or die situation, and what it means back in Italy and the pressure? Is it that, or do they just simply unable to do it on the big moments?
Right. I think it'd be too easy to look at the Bastoni red card and think it changed the game. The truth is, Bosnia were all over them. We're sitting watching it going, it seems like a matter of time before they get a goal. And then when they eventually get it, yes, they got it late, but it was only what they deserved. I mean, 31 shots, 11 on target. I mean, you've gotten beaten up. Italy got beat up. Supposedly one of the giants and one of the biggest games against an average international side. Bosnia are average. Yes, they're at home, but they're average. And you actually got outplayed. And the fact that you end up losing the game, you can't look at any decisions really that changed this game, other than the fact you got outplayed and deservedly lost in the end.
Craig mentioned the fact that there isn't a kind of element of surprise maybe that we've seen in the past, Gab.
Yeah, look, in the past, I mean, I'll let you in a little secret. Back in the days when Italy were very comfortable defending stoutly and playing catenaccio, they had people like Totti, like Roberto Baggio, like Ale Del Piero up front. They had absolute top-shelf, world-class strikers. This Italy side has Retegui, who's fine if you give him service, and they have Moise Kean, who's way up and down. So if you don't have that level of players up front, you have to come up with a different game plan. And I think Italy has a very good midfield, and they have a very good defense. And you can, and they have ball-playing defenders. And I think Stevie's right. Rather than approaching this game, and in fact, frankly, the Northern Ireland game as well, as like, oh, let's be smart, let's be clever, let's paint the edges. How about we just take the ball, we have better players, and we go out and we out-football them. I think that was a fundamental mistake. Now, if Gattuso were here, he'd say, well, I didn't have the time to put the guys together. You know, you don't do that in a playoff. At some point, you have to. And where Italy's had success internationally, hasn't been that much, but you know, you look at Euro 2012, Euro 2016, Euro 2020, it's actually been by playing football, by saying, and I take the point, right? They're not France in terms of talent or Spain or whatever, but they're a darn sight better than all but 4 or 5 countries in Europe in terms of talented players. And to do that, you have to get your talented players to go and play football and not turn this into the sort of game that Bosnia wanted. And again, all credit to Bosnia, because if you don't go out with a football mindset, we're going to take the game to the opposition. When something goes wrong with your game plan, like Bastoni getting sent off in the 41st minute, at that point, all you're doing the rest of the game is hanging on for dear life. And at that point, your talent doesn't really make a difference.
This is what Gattuso had to say after the elimination. As Gab said, of course, he was brought in theory to try and save things. These lads didn't deserve this for the effort, the love, the determination. I was surprised too by the sheer heart and determination they showed today. It's unfair, but that's football. I personally apologise for not having made it, but these lads gave absolutely everything. Did they, Gab?
I think they did. I think they had heart and determination. I think Bosnia had just as much, if not more. I don't, again, we can fault Bastoni for his bad decision, and that's fine. And then you can fault others for making mistakes. But I did not see a lack of effort out there. I saw a lack of good finishing. I saw a lack of cohesion of a team that took the game to the opposition, but I think they were following, frankly, coach's orders on that. And at that point, when they were a goal up and a man down, they said, all right, it's time to hunker down and see if we can get some scraps on the break. And essentially, that was it the rest of the way. They executed that game plan, which I thought was the wrong game plan. They executed it to the best of their ability with lots of heart and lots of determination. Nobody, I think, should fault these guys for effort. It's just that to qualify for World Cups, you don't just need effort. You need effort, you need talent, you need intelligence, and you need a game plan that works. And the last 2 things were, frankly, missing, in my view. Not just in this game, but in the Northern Ireland game too.
Are we being too nice to Italy, Jules?
Yeah, massively. And to Gattuso as well. This quote is ridiculous. Since when you have heart and determination, you deserve to qualify for World Cup? It's just... this is BS. I mean, for him coming back again, I don't think it's surprising. He's out of his depth completely. He's been since day one, and since he took over the job, he was never good enough for this team, for this qualifier, for this project or this mission that he had. And in the way, I'm saying it's not surprising that him, of all people, comes up with, well, we deserve to qualify because we showed heart, love, determination, peace. Hey, this is nonsense. He was just not good enough. Bosnia, I agree with Stevie. Bosnia are not even a good team. They're not a good team, and yet they battered you. They're not a good team. Even at 11v11, they were much better than you. So heart, determination, level, sure. At 10v11 for a long time, yeah, okay, you fought hard. But by the way, as soon as you went 1-1, you started playing a little bit more, and then suddenly you were a bit more threatening. Because you stopped playing as soon as you went down to 10 men, you stopped playing and you just waited for those crosses, because all Bosnia did is crossing the ball. They had no creativity, no combination, nothing. Dzeko hardly touched the ball, and yet you still managed to lose this game.
I think it was between the 90 minutes finishing, or the full game finishing, and the extra time starting. There was a camera shot of, went to a close-up of the Italian technical area, and he had a bunch of his staff around him. Gattuso, that is, and he looked as if he was listening to everybody, and he hadn't got a clue what he was going to do. That he had no clear path of what substitutes or changes he was going to make, and everybody was it seemed everybody was telling him, and he looked as if he was sort of confused and not, dare I say, not in charge of the situation at that time. The only issue I have got with qualification like this, and I'm not being nice to Italy, because Italy are out. They should, and quite frankly, they've been poor, and it's an embarrassment. But the whole way of you able to qualify and get to World Cups is just it's a bit of a shambles to me. I mean, take Sweden for example. I think they won 2 games in the whole qualification, finished bottom of the group, but somehow through this Nations League get into the playoff. They were absolutely dire in qualification. That's the name of it, qualification. And yet, somehow they managed to get their way there. And Italy, who were poor in this game tonight, but weren't terrible, to my knowledge, in the group stage. Norway were exceptional. Norway were exceptional in the group stage. And by the way, Gattuso moaned about that. But from that point of view, where the way teams are able to get the parachute to qualify, I just don't think it's right. The reason it's called qualification is for a reason. And I got a real problem, a real issue with that.
So that's one down. Let's just remind you what that means then for Bosnia and their World Cup group. Canada, Qatar, Switzerland. I think you're more than happy with those 3 other oppositions.
Arsenal's internal shakeup continues, and the latest departure signals that the restructuring behind the scenes is far from over. James Ellis has stepped down from his role as technical director just 7 months after being promoted. According to BBC Sport, Ellis, who only took on the position last August after serving as head of recruitment, has now left the club amid what appears to be a wider internal overhaul. His exit doesn't come in isolation. In December, Arsenal appointed former Napoli executive Maurizio Micheli to a senior recruitment role, a move widely seen as part of the club's long-term structural reset. Just months earlier, Andrea Berta had been confirmed as sporting director, effectively replacing Edu Gaspar. That appointment alone signaled a new era. Now, with Ellis gone, the transformation feels even more deliberate. Ellis joins Edu and former CEO Vini Venkatesham among high-profile departures from the Emirates hierarchy. Both Edu and Venkatesham moved on to new roles. Edu taking on a global director of football position at Nottingham Forest, and Venkatesham joining Tottenham. However, neither situation appears entirely stable. Edu's time at the City Ground has reportedly been turbulent. Nottingham Forest's dramatic drop in form since his arrival has raised serious questions about the project's direction, and indications suggest his tenure there may not last much longer. Meanwhile, at Tottenham, Venkatesham has come under intense scrutiny from Spurs supporters, particularly for his initial backing and continued support of Thomas Frank, even as results and performances deteriorated from December onward. Eventually, Igor Tudor was appointed interim manager, and his first match in charge came in the most demanding fixture possible, the North London derby against Arsenal. Despite having just 7 days in the job, the 47-year-old Tudor understands the magnitude of the occasion and the adversity he's facing. "We trained with 13 players," Tudor admitted. "That's the reality. It's not ideal, but in moments like this, the challenge becomes even greater. And so does the opportunity to succeed." He added confidently, "We will have 13 players ready, and that's more than enough to achieve what we want on Sunday. I understand the importance of this match. It's a North London derby. Everyone expects 3 points from us. We are aware of that." Arsenal, however, arrive at the derby carrying frustration of their own. Consecutive draws against Wolves and Brentford have slowed their momentum, and Mikel Arteta made it clear there could not be a better fixture to respond. "It's the next game, and it's the one we're most excited to play," Arteta said. "If we could play today, we would. We have to use that feeling in our stomach the right way, and show it on Sunday." There are also selection decisions looming. Despite Eberechi scoring 3 times in the reverse fixture, his place in midfield is no longer guaranteed. Competition has intensified, particularly after positive fitness updates on Kai Havertz and Martin Odegaard, both capable of operating in similar roles. "We'll have to wait until tomorrow," Arteta said cautiously. "But there's a strong possibility that both of them will be available." With tension rising both on and off the pitch, this derby feels bigger than usual. Arsenal are reshaping their leadership structure. Tottenham are battling instability, and both clubs are searching for momentum at a crucial stage of the season. Sunday won't just be about 3 points. It's about direction, identity, and control in North London. The broader picture, however, stretches beyond one derby or one boardroom exit. What is unfolding at Arsenal is a defining phase, a moment where structural decisions off the pitch could shape the club's competitiveness for years to come. The departure of James Ellis raises natural questions about continuity and recruitment strategy. Arsenal have invested heavily in building a data-driven, modern scouting network over the past few seasons. Under Mikel Arteta's leadership, recruitment has largely aligned with a clear footballing identity: younger profiles, tactical intelligence, technical security, and long-term resale value. Now, with Maurizio Micheli and Andrea Berta positioned as key figures, the club appears to be centralizing authority even further. For supporters, the concern isn't necessarily change, it's instability. Frequent turnover at executive level can create uncertainty during crucial transfer windows. With the summer approaching and expectations growing after consecutive near-title pushes, Arsenal cannot afford missteps in squad planning. Rivals are strengthening. Margins are thin. Every decision matters. On the pitch, the North London derby carries added psychological weight. Arsenal's recent draws against Wolves and Brentford weren't just dropped points. They dented momentum at a critical juncture of the season. Title races are often defined by response, how quickly a team reacts after disappointment. Arteta understands that narrative. Privately, there is belief within the squad that performances have not dipped as sharply as results suggest. Arsenal have maintained strong possession metrics, defensive structure, and chance creation numbers in recent matches. The issue has been efficiency, converting control into decisive moments. Against Tottenham, that margin for waste disappears. For Spurs, the situation feels even more volatile. Igor Tudor's interim appointment reflects urgency rather than long-term planning. Training sessions with limited numbers underline the squad's injury struggles, and depth will be tested against one of the league's most organized sides. Yet derby matches rarely follow logic. Emotional intensity often overrides tactical predictability. Another layer to the story is the competitive landscape at the top of the table. With Manchester City and Liverpool maintaining relentless standards, any slip can reshape the standings instantly. Arsenal know that draws at this stage can feel as damaging as defeats. The pressure is no longer about proving progress. It's about delivering silverware. Internally, Arteta's message has reportedly been direct. Block out external noise. The boardroom reshuffle, media speculation, and scrutiny around player selection cannot bleed into matchday focus. Leadership inside the dressing room, particularly from senior figures, becomes crucial in moments like this. There is also anticipation around the possible return of Kai Havertz and Martin Odegaard. Their availability would not only boost tactical flexibility, but also restore leadership and composure in key phases of play. If both are fit, Arteta faces a selection dilemma, but one he would welcome. In North London, perception shifts quickly. One result can calm doubts or intensify them. A victory would reassert Arsenal's authority, silence questions about momentum, and reinforce belief in the current project despite executive turnover. A setback, however, would amplify concerns about consistency at the worst possible time. Ultimately, this is a convergence of narratives: structural change, title ambition, squad depth challenges, and historic rivalry. The derby will not define the entire season, but it will send a message. And right now, both clubs are desperate to control that message.